And the Dr. Anderson, unfortunately, Dr. Anderson cannot make it. He is something came up, and so Dr. Anderson said he'll join us next week. And so that's the bad news. The good news is that I'm going to bring in a little bit of a replacement because I don't want you guys to go without your dose of Powernomics. So what I did was I pulled out my Powernomics book, and I'm going to go into chapter 3, and I'm going to read a little bit about building competitive communities, and we're going to break all that down. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to get started on drboystv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and in this space, you don't have to be intelligent, but you got to want to be intelligent. If you're not interested in being intelligent and black and capable and powerful, then you should probably leave because this is not the place for you. Also, we live by the B1 philosophy. B1 means that we put ourselves first, black first. Black first means we put ourselves at the top of the priority list. We don't save other people till we save ourselves. Number 2, B1 also means that by the year 2070, Project 2070 is what it's called. B1 children will lead the world when it comes to economics, black wealth, real estate acquisition, and all those things. 3, B1 means that we must be one to be successful. So if you agree with that philosophy, put a hashtag B in the number 1 in the chat, hashtag B1. That is our calling card. Give me a yes, guys, if you guys can hear me okay. I'm really messing around with microphones and getting some different reactions here. So I want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. I don't want to let you down on this end. So I'm looking here and just trying to mess around with my mic and try to see what it is. Okay, so you guys can hear me okay. All right, perfect. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Claud Anderson was supposed to join us today. He can't make it. He's the king. He's the godfather. And so we don't question why he couldn't make it. He just couldn't make it, and that's okay. So I said, you know what? Instead of canceling, let me go ahead and just hop in here and talk to you guys. And first of all, I want to let everybody know, number 1, if you missed the Emancipation Equation event last night, you don't know what you were missing. Julian Gordon just dropped it like it was hot when it came to real estate ownership, the acquisition of rental property, and how that can benefit you. If you want to go watch the recording, we're going to leave it up for 24 more hours. You can go to theblackfinancialchannel.com. The URL is right there on the screen. So if you're at the Black Financial Channel, just scroll up. You should find that video. It's right there. It's from last night, and it's something that I encourage you to take a look at if you're interested in owning rental property. All right. So with that said, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. Hello, Paul. Hello, Slim Major, Floyd Harris. How you doing? Vernon Johnson and Christopher Taylor. Let's get it cracking. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually look in Powernomics. I'm going to read Powernomics, which is Dr. Anderson's most famous book. And you guys know Powernomics is a book that should be taught really in every university. Any HBCU that's worth its weight in potato chips should have a course focused on Powernomics philosophies, so you can send out black people, black youth who have an interest in building the black community. Tell me yes or no if you think does that sound reasonable to you, that perhaps one goal that HBCUs can have and all of our universities can have is to send out educated black people who want to build the black community? Well, why is that important? Well, it's important because we saw that educated black folks are not actually helping the black community economically. The educated black folks are actually increasing the wealth gap. Did you see that in the Wall Street Journal? That was reported in the Wall Street Journal that because black folks are going to college, and there's nothing wrong with going to college. We just dropped our son off at college yesterday. So don't think I'm being anti-college here. I'm just trying to break it down for y'all so you understand what's going on. Because of college, the cost of tuition has skyrocketed. That's taken a big chunk of black wealth. Student loans are taking a big chunk of black wealth. Half of all black college graduates can't even repay their student loans. So one rule of business that's very basic is if you take on debt to start a business, if you take on debt in order to make more money, the debt is supposed to make you more money than you borrowed. You're supposed to make more than what you spent to get access to that capital. So the point of the matter is to say, when you're talking about the student loan debt crisis, this is killing Black wealth. And also you sending all of your Black graduates to go off and work for white people. It's killing Black wealth. Having all your graduates go up, get out into the world without good investing habits, saving habits, real estate acquisition habits, is killing Black wealth. So the college degree is not a bad thing. I've been a college professor for almost 30 years now. I taught at University of Kentucky, Syracuse University, the Ohio State University, etc. So education is a wonderful thing, but education and college degrees don't matter nearly as much as things like buying real estate or starting businesses or making investments. That's how you build wealth. In order to build wealth, you must have income. Most Black people don't have any income. Tell me if you think I'm crazy for saying that. Give me a yes or no if that sounds weird to you. Most Black people have no income. Julian Gordon breaks it down extremely well, but I'll break it down for you now. Most Black people have no income. Well, what does that mean? Well, if you look at a company's income is what? It's revenues minus expenses, right? You get what I'm saying? And so if you're a person who makes $50K a year on your job and you're spending $50K a year and then maybe even going into debt, then effectively you have no income. Your job literally is a job, just over broke. You're literally making the same amount that you're spending. So you're not getting, you don't have an income. You have no net income. So you can't build wealth if you have no income. How are you going to build income? How are you going to build wealth with no income? Right? How do corporations build wealth? How do corporations get billions of dollars in assets? Well, they have this thing called a profit. They have revenue. It's greater than their expenses. And then you have the profit. The income gets recycled back into the company. They call that a plowback ratio. They're plowing back the company's income back into further investment, which allows the company to grow. So the reason you ain't growing, the reason you running on a treadmill, running your butt off on a treadmill, done ran 50 marathons on a treadmill and ain't going nowhere, is because your revenue and your revenue and your expenses are pretty much equal. You live in paycheck to paycheck. So if you don't learn how to be a wealth builder, then you will never have wealth, but you'll never even have any income, which is the opportunity to build wealth. So the reason that it's important to become owners of real estate, to start businesses, etc., and to buy, to do all these other things, is because that gives you income, which gives you the opportunity to build wealth. That is how you close the wealth gap. In order to close the wealth gap, you need to build wealth. In order to build wealth, you must have income. A lot of Black people, a lot of Black college graduates have no income because their revenues and their expenses are equal. Give me a yes in the chat if you get what I'm saying. Sometimes I talk fast because this stuff is stuff I've just known for most of my life, and I don't want to confuse anybody. Do you give me a yes? Give me a conscious yes. Consciously type the word yes in the chat to let me know that what I said has sunk in and you understand the argument I just made here. Okay, give me a yes. All right, I see. Yes, thank you, Daryl and Mary. I see you. Good. All right, so hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. I'm not going to be long, but I want to read this to you. All right, so this is from Powernomics, page 63, chapter 3. It's called Building Competitive Communities. So it says a group's ability to compete is determined by its internal cohesiveness and self-interest. So he's saying that in order for you to compete, you must do two things. You must be internally cohesive and you must have your self-interest first. B1, right? B1. We must be one to be successful. That's cohesiveness. B1 also means we put ourselves at the top of the priority list. That's what the B1 philosophy indicates, right? So you must have internal cohesiveness and self-interest. That means you can't be out here trying to save immigrants. You can't be out here trying to save LGBT. You can't be out here trying to save the feminists and save the whales, or save the Democratic Party. You got to come out and save yourselves first. Okay. So internal cohesiveness and self-interest. Black Americans must therefore build functional communities within which they can ethno-aggregate. That means bring yourself together based on ethnicity, ethno-aggregate, and then practice group economics and group politics. A functional community can best be defined as a grouping of people who come together and organize for their own self-interest rather than misdirected altruistic interests. Once built, whether based upon geographical boundaries, ethnic or racial commonalities, a community cares for the collective interests of its members. Building our own communities will allow Black Americans to become economically and politically competitive, but will also give us something that we've never had, a chance to compete from the vantage point of our own physical space. cultural values, resources, institutions, and history. So let's break that down. A chance to compete from the vantage point of our own physical space. That's the acquisition of land. Cultural values. Right now, you're in a culture war. People are trying to push cultural values onto you that don't necessarily resonate with you. Right. That's where the big battles with Cardi B and Lil Nas X and all this other stuff comes from, is that these are cultural values that I know for a fact you don't identify with, because I run surveys with you guys. And a lot of you are concerned about some of the imagery that's being pushed by other people who are trying to influence your cultural values. Resources. That's why I tell you, when you vote, you got to really make sure you're voting for resources. A lot of Black folks, the reason we haven't, you guys may know this, maybe you don't. If you know it, I'm going to repeat this. When you look at most studies that look at how much Black wealth has increased over the last 50 years, we have not made any progress. We have made no progress. We have less wealth than we had 50 years ago. Home ownership is I think, at an all-time low. And you've had a lot of backward movement in economics in terms of wealth levels, as well as the wealth gap between whites and Blacks. So how did that happen, right? You were told, okay, if you elect Black people to public office, that's going to make your life better. Studies show that has not occurred. You were told that more Black people getting college degrees was going to move Black people forward. That has not occurred. What has happened, in my view, is that the reason we haven't made progress is because we are trying to be MVPs. We're using the MVP model to achieve progress. MVP stands for marching, voting, and praying. Marching, voting, and praying. We're using the MVP models, and the MVP model has not worked. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to march. It doesn't mean you shouldn't vote. It doesn't mean that praying is a bad thing. I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm just simply saying that when it comes to closing the racial wealth gap, those things are maybe they're not necessarily bad, but they're highly ineffective. They don't achieve the goal. So Al Sharpton, when Al Sharpton gets called into a racial controversy, first thing he does is he holds a march, and then nothing happens after the march. And then with every election, they tell you to vote because your ancestors died for you to have the right to vote, and that you should vote because the Democrats need you. You vote, you elect people, and then nothing good happens, right? Praying, you're told to go pray to Jesus. We got prayer warriors. We all go pray. And praying is fine. I'm not saying prayer can't be good for meditation or spiritual connection and all these other things, right? Even I pray, right? Even I will meditate, and connect with the universe. Nothing wrong with that. Not dissing it, but praying is not the same as actually doing things, right? They say prayer without works is dead, right? So this is not anti-prayer. This is certainly not anti-Black church. I got a lot of friends and colleagues in the Black church. Love them all. Much respect to all of them. But the MVP model is not working. So stop trying to be an MVP. That just doesn't work. So basically, when you're talking about voting, you must be voting for resources. You must talk about the resources. The number one thing that Black people need is we need access to the resources, access to capital, money that will allow us to build our own businesses and own our own schools. Those are two big things that would make a huge difference. Also, he said, so physical space, cultural values, resources, institutions, and history. You need institutions in your community. You have no institutions. Most of your Black college graduates are not being trained to develop institutions. Instead, they're being trained to go connect to white institutions. So they're achieving the wrong form of so-called equality. Their form of equality is not to say, let's go develop institutions that we own and control. It is, let me integrate myself into a white man's institution so that hopefully one day the white man will treat me as he treats himself. Studies show that that's just not going to happen. You're living in a fantasy world. That is not possible. That simply does not occur. There is no way you can move into the home of somebody who has different values from you and have them treat you the same as they would treat themselves or as they would treat a relative. That's just an illusion. That just doesn't exist in the real world. Like, there's no way. Think about this. Give me a yes or no. If an Asian family moved into your house and wanted to make you Asian, would that work? Give me a yes or no. Would they if they said, you know what, get rid of all the stuff you're doing as Black people. It's offensive to me. We think it's anti-Asian. It bothers us. So we need you to get rid of all your Black culture and start replacing that with Chinese culture. Give me a yes or no. Would that work in your house? Would you be okay with that? Or would you push back? How would you feel? Right? It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work in my house. It wouldn't work because it's my house. If you don't like it, you can leave. Right? Go to your house. But you have a problem if you can't build a house. So the reason that black people struggle, including many highly educated Negroes with master's degrees, and I know a bunch of them. I know PhDs, MDs, JDs, a lot of educated Negroes in the struggle, can't get ahead because nobody ever taught you how to build a house. If I was to build a school tomorrow, you know how I would shape the curriculum? I would do what in mathematics they call this backward induction or dynamic optimization. You know what I would do? I would start with the end in mind and work backward. So I would say, okay, what does a black man or black woman need to know at the age of 30 or 35 years old in order to be successful in this world? We're going to make sure that we teach these young black people everything they'll need to know at 35 years old to be successful, to be free, to be healthy, to be happy. And that would center typically around three key areas: health, wealth, and relationships. So I would say, okay, when he's 35 years old, what should he be eating? How can we make sure he's also mentally healthy? So that would include programs on self-development. Maybe it's on confidence. Maybe it's on relationship management, or whatever it is, whatever is going to make him mentally healthy. We would talk about what food he's putting in his body so that he doesn't end up obese and with all these health ailments that kill black people every single year. Again, people say Black Lives Matter, but they don't talk about any of these things. So really, Black lives don't matter to you, right? We would cover the health. We would talk about wealth. What does it mean for him to have a solid income and to be financially secure? So we will cover every aspect of wealth. We will study rich people and say, okay, these are the areas that rich people get their money. Rich people get their money typically in three ways: owning businesses, owning stocks and bonds, owning real estate. They don't get wealthy through jobs. So we're not going to necessarily prepare him to get a job. But we're at least going to let him know, if you get a job, make sure you have side hustles and multiple streams of income so your income is solid. We would invest for him early to make sure he has assets to work with, so that way he doesn't have to sign up for slavery in order to pay his bills, right? And then the third part, relationships. He's going to be the head of a household one day. We're preparing this young man to become a king of a house one day, right? If you are the head of the household, you are the king. If you are a woman, you are the queen. How do you prepare proper kings and proper queens, right? You don't have kings and queens as much as you have a lot of people that are maybe court jesters. They're kind of a joke, right? A man who's weak, a man who's not able to solve problems, a man who's not able to adequately lead or negotiate with his wife to make sure that they're getting along is not going to be a healthy head of a household. A man who struggles with things like addiction, or a man who is abusive, or a woman who is disrespectful or doesn't know how to take care of her children or whatever, is not going to be an adequate member of a household, right? So those relationships matter, right? I would literally spend as much time teaching a child how to run a household as I would spend teaching them all these other things that don't matter, right? We go to school, we go to biology class, we study white history, we're learning civics and all this other nonsense. Why not have a whole class, literally a whole class on literally how to run your damn household? Think about how many millions of children's lives would be so much better if their parents knew what the fuck to do. If their parents weren't stupid out here running the streets, making babies everywhere, cussing each other out in front of the kids, getting hooked on drugs and making bad financial decisions and putting their kids in all kinds of harm's way. Can't keep a man for more than 2 weeks. Got 18 women you trying to go get pregnant at the same time. Like, think about this. Think about how much better, how many millions more healthy kids we would have if you just had parents that knew how to run a household properly, who knew how to get along, who knew how to figure things out in their relationship, right? Think about how many trillions of dollars in wealth would be created if black men were trained early, like they are in the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam does this. If you want to know your model for the future, you need to go study the Nation of Islam. This is why at the All Black National Convention, I've invited Brother Nuri Muhammad. I've invited Dr. Wesley Muhammad. I've invited Vicky Dillard. I have invited my sister, what's her name? Akila Nehanda, that's her name. Akila Nehanda, Cedric Muhammad. I want all the Muhammads at the All Black National Convention because they know how to build solid black people. They know how to build reliable people, intelligent people, self-starters. They're not sitting around waiting for white people to validate them. That's your blueprint. But instead, you're getting led astray because you're listening to rappers who can't even manage their own lives, right? You're listening to crazy celebrities whose personal lives are a complete mess, right? So imagine how many trillions of dollars in wealth we would have if black men knew how to just get along as opposed to fighting with each other, or if black women, really embrace sisterhood, or if black men and black women could get together in the same space and resolve our differences long enough in order to build. Instead, you have a whole culture on the internet where everybody loves Kevin Samuels because he'll cuss a black woman out in a minute. Everybody loves the crazy feminists because they'll tell you how toxic and terrible black men are. Right. You have a whole culture. You got the Lizzos out here telling everybody to get fat and be a hoe. Right. And that's somehow women's empowerment, when really it leads to little girls getting raped and ending up on a damn stripper pole and whatever. Right. But somehow somebody told you that was empowerment. That's not empowerment. There's nothing empowering about being an obese slut that is going to throw yourself at any man, within a 100-mile radius. Like, there's nothing that leads to a good outcome from that. Right. So a lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense. This culture is very anti-wealth. It's very anti-black. It's very anti-family. It's very anti-progress. So the reason I'm reading from this book today is because I want to encourage you to really be conscious about all of that. Consciously observe all this and just ask yourself a basic question. Okay, if I do what Cardi B, let's talk about that, or Lil Nas X. If I live Lil Nas X's life, if I do what Lil Nas X, exactly what he does, exactly what he preaches in his music or whatever, what kind of life am I going to have if I'm a young person, right? I would probably die of AIDS, right? Or maybe I would end up broke, right? If I'm blowing my money and throwing it all away, maybe I end up in jail because I'd be twerking in prison. Right. Maybe I'd end up ignorant because there's nothing educational or intelligent about any of that. Right. So the question becomes, which models work? And I think that as black people, we have to really stop and kind of pay attention to that, because sometimes we fall under the assumption that something's okay just because it's popular. Right. Or that it's okay just because it's on TV. And I tend to be a contrarian. I say, well, if it's popular, it's probably not okay, because the culture is not succeeding. This is not a succeeding culture. This is not a culture where your children are educated, safe, and economically secure and emotionally stable. This is a culture where your children are ignorant. 100,000 black kids graduate every year, can't even read a grade level. The kids are ignorant. They're dying in the street. They're emotionally torn apart because somebody ain't seen their daddy, in 20 years, right? And all these things are unhealthy, right? So we have to think about these things. So do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. I actually wrote a book where I laid out the blueprint that I had in my head for black people to the year 2070. It was a 60-year plan when I wrote the book around 2010. Now it's a 50-year plan because now we're in 2021. But it's called Wealth, Education, Family, and Community: A New Paradigm for Black America. And that's the subtitle. I apologize. The main title is It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar. So if you'd like to get a free copy, you can go to allblackeconomics.com. I am not selling that book. I'm giving it away because I want as many people that want to hear it to have it, so you can have it for free. So the URL is on the screen. Let me read more. It says, for the first time, we will be free to organize and work in our best interests rather than the interests of a universe of ethnic and class competitors. Historically, societies were built upon three institutions that served as pillars: the family, the church, and the community. True communities are communities of mind and physical structures within a space. Both are important, but no traditional society built on land that it did not, both are important, but no traditional society built on land that it did not own or control has been successful or prospered. So this, by the way, this is Powernomics, Dr. Claud Anderson's book. You can get it on powernomics.com. I want to focus on one sentence here. He says, true communities are communities of mind and physical structures within the space. He said, both are important, but no traditional society built on land that it did not own or control has been successful or prospered. So what he's basically saying is that you will not prosper until you own something. If you do not own and control something, you cannot prosper, according to what Dr. Anderson is saying here, right? Also, I will say this, I'll go further to say, you can't find any community with broken families that has ever prospered in terms of wealth, ever. Like, they can tell you all day that if all y'all go to college and get a degree, everything's going to be better, or whatever. If everybody gets a job, things will be better because they offer you jobs and degrees, right? Because but if you don't have ownership and if you don't have family, you cannot succeed. So that's why, for example, in the last few weeks, we've been spending so much time talking about relationships. Ignorant people don't understand it. I don't have time to talk to ignorant people. Honestly, it doesn't mean I want to be disrespectful. I know Kwame Brown is mad that I don't, that he thinks I don't address ignorant people, but I ain't got time for ignorant bullshit. Like I don't. Like he can do that, right? Whatever. I want to talk to people that really understand what I'm saying. You can't succeed without family. You can't succeed without ownership. If you own nothing, then you will have nothing. If you do not have family, you cannot build wealth, right? So let me keep going. It says, neither the landless European serfs nor the landless Jews under the pharaohs of Egypt were able to do it. For this reason, Black Americans need a solid foundation of communities upon which to begin empowering ourselves. So when you talk about community, all a community is a patchwork of families. If you have, and families are similar to a little bit like corporations. It's a nexus of relationships. It's a group of people who are connected in some way, who are able to get along well enough to maintain the unity of the group, of the collective. So when you have psychological problems in the community, unaddressed trauma, what you end up running into is the inability to maintain healthy enough relationships for you to achieve progress as a group. So, for example, at the All Black National Convention, the number one thing that we're focused on this year is how do we form groups and how do we give people the tools and skills to make sure that the group is always cooperating with each other, that you resolve your disputes, that you make yourself a healthy, adequate group member, that nobody is leeching from the group or harming other members of the group. That's literally the next book I'm working on is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And it's literally focused on all these things, because what groups tend to do that have power is they operate on some sort of code. They have a code of conduct where you can't deviate from the code of conduct or you'll be removed from the group, right? So, and by the way, there's a URL if you want to go take a look at the convention. It's at the end of October. It's in Orlando, and we're paying for it without any corporate sponsorship or any government money. And so we've already paid for the venue and all that stuff. It's going to cost us probably about $100,000, but we're going to do this. We would love for you to buy tickets and to come to the convention and bring your family. There's 9 restaurants on the property, and it's a really nice place. And we're going to have everything from breakout sessions on how to start a business to crypto to relationships and politics and everything else. And we're also going to have a masquerade ball. We're going to have what else? Speed dating, speed networking, investment clubs, like all kinds of stuff. So bring your church group, bring your family, bring your study group, your investment group, and we'll accommodate all of that. Okay, so allblacknationalconvention.com is the URL. All right, so let me keep going. Like Moses, we must begin to build physical communities and maintain a strong sense of community. Moses used his vision of the promised land to mobilize his people for a 40-year journey to a land upon which Jews built functional communities, families, religious institutions, commerce, schools, and a strong sense of a community. Nearly a century ago, W.E.B. Du Bois accurately proclaimed that the color line would be the problem for the 20th century. It's a new millennium now, and it's now becoming increasingly clear that the problem of the 21st century will be community boundary lines. America is balkanizing along racial, ethnic, economic, and religious lines. Across America, groups are aggressively seeking territory or communities in which they can store their wealth, resources, or political power to enjoy and preserve for their future generations. As noted earlier, Hispanics, for example, are assembling their economic and political intentions behind the Spanish language and culture. They intend to use both to capture territory, rights, and a political base within the United States. So, this nonsense about there being some sort of Black Hispanic coalition, which that's what you're being fed in order to get your support on an agenda that doesn't support you. That there is no Black Hispanic coalition. If there were, then they would be showing up to help you fight for reparations. If there were, their organizations would be showing up to support you when Black kids are being shot up in Black neighborhoods. They're not doing that, right? They're pretty much doing what you should be doing, which is using their collective background and language and community to go and conquer territory. They're going around and they're basically saying the United States belongs to us. Like we're taking over where Black people were before, and now we are the most important voting base in America besides white people, and we're going to actually surpass them at some point too, right? So ultimately, the self-esteem issue is a big problem in our community. We take a lot of pride in doing things for our slave masters. Like we brag about that. Like, I don't know if y'all remember when Biden got elected, there were people bragging about how we saved the Democratic Party, or there go black women saving y'all again. Right. I think I saw that as a meme. And I'm saying there's nothing to brag about. I would prefer that black women save black women than to see black women saving Joe Biden. I don't see anything special about Joe Biden that says black women should be saving Joe Biden. What has he really done for you other than signing the crime bill that took away most of your husbands and a lot of your sons, right? There's nothing there's nothing to be proud of in terms of saving the guy who led to one of the largest black exterminations in American history. All right, so let me keep going. The practice of seeking territory for communities will intensify as more and more people around the world would immigrate to America. They come to America in search of a better quality of life, not to integrate with whites or to get along with black Americans. They are coming to this country to get ahead economically and to find wealth and fortune. They commit themselves to competing with any and all groups economically and politically on behalf of themselves, their families, and their native countries. Typically, their initial destination is close to or within black neighborhoods. This is how they get your money. They have learned from official and unofficial sources that they can find great opportunities in black neighborhoods because black people give their money away. Within black neighborhoods, ethnic immigrants expect to find the least expensive housing, lax enforcement of laws and regulation, and little business competition. So you don't have businesses, so you don't compete. Pay attention now. Are y'all hearing this? Are y'all hearing this? He's explaining, he's breaking the game down. Dr. Claud Anderson, this is Powernomics. Everybody, I'm telling you guys, we need our own school system. The school system starts here. You are the superintendent of the school system in your house. You should have your kids reading books like Powernomics early. Don't even read my books till later. You can get around to my books later. You got to have your kids reading Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth. Those are probably two of the most important books for black people to read. So let me keep going. They commit themselves to competing with any and all ethnic groups. Their initial destination is close to black neighborhoods. They have learned that within black neighborhoods, they expect to find the least expensive housing, lax enforcement of laws and regulation, and little business competition because black people don't create businesses. We go search for jobs. They also find readily accessible consumers because we love to spend that money. We even rap about it. We rap about how much money we gave away to Jake the Jeweler and Gucci and all that. They readily find accessible consumers, government assistance, easy access to elected officials, and employment opportunities. Though they are aware of the crime problem in black neighborhoods, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. They find territory and build communities. As ethnics fill in business voids in black neighborhoods with a modicum of success, they begin to practice ethno-aggregation. They bring in and aggregate their families and others from their native lands. They then develop more businesses in black neighborhoods. As they capture territory, they establish powerful economies and political organizations using their ethnic culture, language, and religion as their common ground. So let me ask y'all a question real quick. How many of y'all can go through your neighborhood and find one of these things? How many of you can go within maybe a 5-minute radius of if you live in a black neighborhood or got relatives who live in a black neighborhood? How many of you within a few minutes can find maybe a Chinese restaurant, a nail salon, run by maybe some people from Thailand or Vietnam or something like that? What else? Maybe a corner store run by some people from the Middle East. Give me a yes or no. How many of you will find these things in your hood? I'm thinking about this because I remember when I was in Atlanta, the black city, the black Mecca, all the other shit. And Alicia and I went on a run. We went on a run because my grandmother's buried in Atlanta, and I looked for her grave on MapQuest or on the map app, Google Maps, and I said, let's run to my grandma's grave because I haven't visited my grandma since she died at Emory Hospital in 2013. So we went running, and we ended up running through West Atlanta. And West Atlanta, from what I saw, was pretty, it's pretty hoodish. There's a lot of poverty there and stuff like that. And I saw typical things you might see in the hood. I saw, apartment complexes that were boarded up, busted windows and stuff. But it looked like people were actually still living there, which was very surprising. I saw brothers, sitting just on the corner doing nothing, right? And I saw grocery stores like a grocery store that was like an abandoned grocery store. And I didn't know, much about the neighborhood. I didn't know if it was safe or not. And I kind of got suspicious a little bit when a brother came by because a few black people recognized me, as I was running. And the one dude was like, dang, Dr. Boyce, you over here in West Atlanta? And I was like, I shouldn't be, like I didn't, so I'm like, okay, man, let's kind of, keep our eyes open. Let's keep our head on the swivel because we might be up in the hood, but it was okay. I'm not scared. It's okay. When my time comes for me to go, I'm ready for that. Nothing like that scares me. So we were running, and here's the other thing I saw. The nicest building on the block was a church. I saw this beautiful church right in the middle of devastation. Looked like Iraq or something, Afghanistan, like at some war torn country. But then I see this beautiful church, and then I saw across the street from the brothers that were sitting on the corner, like I'm talking about able-bodied, healthy age black men just sitting there with nothing to do. Across the street, I saw a bunch of white people who come in, and they and Latino people, and they had construction hats on. So they were all building, I guess, an apartment building or something, but they all had jobs and were making money across the street from the black men that had no jobs, had nothing, right? Then I saw a corner store that I went to where I got something to drink, and it was being run by a guy that had a turban on his head, right? And I don't know what country he's from. Call me ignorant. And this just made me think about what you see in a lot of black neighborhoods. You see a lot of crazy scenarios that you don't see anywhere else. Again, America has a recipe for how they treat the black man and black woman that they don't apply to anybody else. And I've tried to point this out to you guys in a lot of occasions. Some people get it, some people don't. But I've asked people, I've said, let's look at, some people get mad at me because I talk about Lizzo, and I don't hate Lizzo. I really don't. I just don't like record labels spending millions of dollars promoting obesity and then complaining about how obesity is killing black people during the pandemic, but yet you promoted Black death, you promoted obesity like it's a good thing, as if it's body positivity, but then you're complaining that black people are dying from obesity. That's pretty much you putting black people in the victim box, and then you're saying, see, you're a victim because you're black, right? Well, you put us in the victim box because you keep on promoting the things that are killing us, and then also promoting this idea that every little girl wants to be a slut when she grows up, which again leads to all the little girls getting raped and all this other stuff, right? So again, I use something that pisses people off, which is called logic and common sense, and people don't like that because it doesn't match their feelings. But I've asked people, I said, can you name the white version of Lizzo? Like a big fat lady who brags about how many men she fucked. There's no white version of Lizzo anywhere. Somebody said Adele, and I said, no, Adele is she's a heavy set white woman, but she just sings. She doesn't twerk. She's not on TikTok, act like she's trying to suck a man's penis. Lizzo did these things. She doesn't show up to Laker games in a thong, and start twerking when the cameras are. Adele does none of that. Adele shows her talent, right? I said, can you name the white Cardi B? There is no white Cardi B. Can you name the white version of Lil Nas X? A man who is twerking butt naked with a bunch of dudes in prison. There is no white Lil Nas X. So my point is that there's certain things, certain rules that apply to you that don't apply to anybody else. They don't apply to the Jews. They don't apply to Asians. They don't apply to Latino people. Nobody, right? Unless you're talking about black Latino people. Maybe Haitians get mistreated, stuff like that, right? But then you look in the hoods, right? And you go into a black neighborhood, and you'll find a bunch of businesses that are owned by other people. Like you'll see, all these businesses owned by all these other ethnic groups, all these groups getting money. And if you come through and you say, this ain't right, like all these businesses, there's not even one black owned business here, but the strip mall has 10 businesses and none of them are black owned, but all of them are owned by all these other groups. That's a problem. You'll pay attention now. You'll literally have black people that'll say, well, that ain't right. That ain't right. Like they'll get mad at you. Like black people will be the first ones to get mad at you for speaking up on behalf of black people. Like that's conditioning, that's special conditioning, because I can't think of any other community where that would happen. I really don't. I can't imagine any, like you show me one Asian community where they've got a strip mall where every single business in that strip mall is owned by people who are not Asian. There is no Chinatown where this is allowed to occur. There is no Jewish community where this is allowed to occur. The Jewish community is very aggressive about protecting their interests. They're like, no, this block is ours. You cannot buy any property on this block. No one will sell to you on this block, right? And I think that sort of understanding of how the game works is really important for black people, because there's something wrong with the way you've been trained to think. And I process this a lot to try to figure out, where does this come from? What's really going on? And I think it starts with the educational system. The educational system is a big part of your problem, because you are falsely led to believe that when my child gets 5 years old, I got to send them to white people to educate my child, which unfortunately turns out to be a big mistake, because they're planting all these ideas into your brain at an early age. And next thing you know, these weird things are happening in Black communities that don't happen anywhere else. And I remember going to school, and I remember the Jewish kids getting off the bus to go to Hebrew school, where they were like, no, we're going to take our babies and we're going to teach them how to be good citizens of the Jewish community, right? And so I would encourage us to consider this idea that we absolutely positively must be the primary educational influence in the minds of our children. It doesn't mean, your child can't go to school. I mean, if you can send your kid to school, I get that. That's totally fine, right? But you have to really be assertive about, like, when I'm talking to my baby, my 11-year-old, I really go out of my way to say, no, I know they told you that in school, but that's bullshit. Let me tell you what really happened. Or did they tell you about Marcus Garvey yet? No, they didn't. Okay, well, let me tell you about Marcus Garvey. Let me tell you, the most important scholar in the 20th century is Dr. Claud Anderson. Here's his book, Powernomics. Let's talk about Powernomics philosophies and what that means, right? Like I am the educator for my children, period. And I got married, and these are not my biological kids, but those are my kids. These are all my kids. Any child within my space is mine. I'm claiming that child, right? So with my kids, my goal every day is to say, I'm going to be the dominant voice in your brain so that you understand the difference between what's real and what's not. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to be influenced by other things that are out here, but you're also going to be heavily influenced by me, so you don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Because that's kind of what occurs in my view, is that Black people get tricked. You just get tricked into doing lots of things that are harmful to you, but you think that they're good for you. And it's largely because you're not aggressively taking control of what's being put into your mind, into your body, or into your life, period. So those are my thoughts for today. And again, I apologize to everybody who came looking for Dr. Claud Anderson. He's clearly more important, more interesting than me. And he's going to come back next week. But I wanted to come on in since we had to schedule this, and he had to move the time a little bit. But he's gonna be here later on in the week, guys. Okay. So by the way, some of you had asked about the book club and how to get access to the archives. We've been doing a lecture every week on Dr. Claud Anderson's books. And if you want to check the archive and get access to all of them, you can feel free to go to the drboycebookclub.com, and that's where we break things down. And I'm gonna keep adding to that every week as we do our book club meetings on Wednesday nights. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you, Black Cobra, for your donation. I appreciate that. I'm gonna read your comment. Crap, I lost your comment, man. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I can't even scroll back and get it. Please forgive me. Yeah. So I hope you guys have a good day, and let me give you all. If you want to get your discounted hotel for the All Black National Convention at the end of October, you can go to abnchotel.com. I spoke to Nuri Muhammad. He's going to be there, and Akilo Nahunda. I'm really excited about that. King Poobah. I wanted to invite some interesting Black people that you may or may not have heard of, who I think you should engage with. King Poobah, a lot of great people. Jay Morrison will be there to do real estate stuff. Attorney Nicole Compton, she's an expert on business ownership and entrepreneurship. We're bringing a lot of good people there. Probably, I want to say like 20 or 30 different experts. Dr. Adrian Carter, I want him to come in because he's really good with relationships. And we got a long list of experts that'll be there. So I hope you'll join us. You can get your hotel at a discount there. Also, we only have a few rooms available at the discounted price, but you can get your hotel there. And also allblacknationalconvention.com, so you can go and take a look at the convention. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go and lay down. And thank you for joining me in this deep, thoughtful moment. I know I'm not here to really, I didn't even know exactly what I was going to say. I'm just sort of really literally thinking about things and sharing with you as the thoughts kind of swirl through my brain. So please have a good day, and I love you, and I'll see you soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money and the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boy's TV. Here we are.